Beauty before age, as they say.
Well, you know what I'd say, since I'm such a mean guy, I'd say beauty ace before beauty, or maybe beauty before beast. You're
That
the
doesn't
beast.
even mean anything. You're just trying to get me,
You're the
and it's
beast.
not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you this morning,
Well,
Mr.
good,
Michael?
Jenny White. Good.
Mr. Michael.
Yeah.
Anything exciting going on with you other than, oh my gosh, it's so nice outside this morning. I'm so excited that I don't have to put on 27 layers of clothing.
Well, the weather is nice.
Put on the jacket.
Yeah, just my normal causing trouble across the board wherever I can routine. But I wanted to bring my brother on this morning real quick. Instead of us chit-chatting for 5 or 6 minutes, I wanted to bring my brother on because of two things. First of all, we saw, let me get this over here. We saw Mr. Combs from Liberal, Kansas, who went to high school. My brother went to high school with this guy. So we saw recently how James O'Keefe went undercover and busted this guy about all the illegal immigrant money that they are given to through the Department of Education. But you know what was, and I'll scroll down when we bring Mark on, but Mark went to school with this guy, and his friend group has kept up with him and his social media. And I mean, some of the stuff this guy was saying and doing was like insane, but he scrubbed. I'll let my brother, I'll let him tell everything about that.
Yeah. Hey, good morning. So yeah, I know Travis quite well. I mean, not only did we go to high school together, we run around the same circles, play sports, all the things, but also college at Kansas State. Went there for undergraduate, so the years there as well, and totally fine, normal, no issues. Like, we all grew up in kind of more so conservative Kansas, small town ideals and all that. It really wasn't until he got out of college, started working in the collegiate system at junior college first, and then he kind of got into the Department of Education after that, is when it really kind of, I don't want to say radicalized, but, ideals changed. I mean, personally, he came out as, gay and this and that kind of changed a little bit because it was never like that before. And then that happened later on in life, right? And so that was just kind of another thing, and that maybe now he felt like he could kind of act and do and say kind of whatever he wanted. But yeah, I mean, definitely to what Michael was saying. I mean, I haven't had social media in forever, but obviously a lot of my friends do. And they're like, dude, you won't believe what he said. And I mean, it's just a bunch of garbage about, how, let's say, illegals and this and that, they're not getting in, being inclusive and all the things, and whether it was, ideals against conservatism and all those kinds of things. And so it was just really quite a lot. And, now the tables have kind of turned on him, and it is what it is, and all that kind of got exposed. And, in one sense, I feel bad for him. I mean, he's deleted all the social media and all this old posts. And because I asked some old friends, I'm like, hey, do we have any of his old like screenshots of kind of what he used to say and that kind of stuff? And there's nothing out there anymore, but everything was against all for like DEI agenda and all those kinds of things. And it's unfortunate, but I'm glad there's people out there like James and the team exposing those kinds of things for what it is.
Well, and I think he was a school board member too. It said in that article that he was actually served at SD4A.
Yeah,
wherever that was.
That's liberal school board. So he was teaching, or he was doing something at Seward County Community College, but also on the school board. And then that's kind of how he got into Department of Education, and obviously moved to Washington or wherever it was that he lived. But, it's just a complete 180 change from how it was when we all grew up and how we knew him before, to then kind of this maybe just indoctrination over time into certain, ideological pathways and what he wanted to pursue. And then obviously if there's money involved and these people are getting, kickbacks or whatever it is, I don't know how that works, but if there's money involved with it, then obviously they're just going to toe the party line and do what they're told, kind of a scenario,
Wow.
Well, I'm kind of curious. So did any of how large was your friend group?
I mean, pretty Pretty big. I mean, I would say, like, because he was a year older than me, but we all, a good chunk of us that all went to school in liberal, went to school at K-State at the same time. So I would say there'd probably be a good 15 to 20 of us.
So that's so interesting then.
Yeah.
So of all of you guys, he was the one that got into academia and he was the one that changed from where you
Well,
were.
there was a couple, and one was an old roommate of his at Kansas State. She's the same, defending all those kinds of same things. It was in an uproar when Doge is going into Department of Education. I mean, there's several of them that kind of like got that problem. I mean, I went into academia, but I went into it collegiately. And like Michael was saying, so after I went to school at Kansas State, I went to Texas State, got my master's, but I taught there at the university from 2011 to the summer of 2016. And so progressively every year, things would just get a little bit worse in terms of, student interaction, in terms of, hey, I need to be called these pronouns and all these things like that, just kind of incrementally started happening over the years. But, the way that I kind of look at it in terms of academia, I just don't get where they're kind of coming from with the Department of Education. And if we're cutting the money and all the things, because I mean, one thing that I really stressed, I'm kind of on a soapbox here, but one of the things that I always really stressed with like my students and people that I communicated with on a daily basis is, teaching is not an innate ability. It is something that is learned. You learn how to do it over time to become a better teacher, coach, or whatever it is. You're not just born a great teacher. This is a skill that you have to learn. And so you might be innately a good communicator, innately a good, leader, those kinds of qualities. But as far as teaching goes, that's one thing that got frustrating with some of the things that I was seeing from Travis and them is just, it's not money that makes the teacher. Maybe it makes better tools and things like this and that, but it's like, you're not telling me that I put everything I can into the kids in the classroom. Money's not changing that. You know what I mean? Maybe there's an incentive program that makes these teachers better if it's monetary, right? But anyways, that's just kind of how I felt about how his perception was of Department of Education and everything that was going on there.
Well, that's like music to your ears, Jenny. Money doesn't make the teacher.
Well, I mean, and we know that that's true from homeschoolers. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you've got plenty of data there, whether people like to believe it's made up or not. There's plenty of data there to indicate that. But I totally agree with Mark. I mean, you do have to be. It's not an innate thing. I mean, it's not like Athena popping out of Zeus's head. You don't just suddenly jump into a classroom and you're the best teacher ever. I mean, it does take some training, but I'm still more interested in the fact that it seems to be academia in your experience anyway, Mark, that's making these people who.
Well, let me tell you this. So this is one thing I was talking to Michael about yesterday. And when Trump won the election, obviously there was some uproar in 2015 leading up to the election, like collegiately, just like the students and, you have this side and this side. And I would hear it in the classroom all the time, or just friend groups I ran around because I lived in Austin at the time. And so you can imagine that part of my friend group was a little bit like on the other side, and we would argue a little bit. And they're like, Trump's the devil, blah, blah, all those kinds of things. And, if you're like, okay, what's the proof? Like, there was never any. But anyways, in 2016, before Trump got inaugurated, we had a meeting in our department. So I was in the Department of Health and Human Performance. I taught kinesiology. And so we had a meeting with the provost of the university and some of the other higher ups with everybody in our department, all the teachers and the chairs and everyone. And they're like, well, what are some of the concerns here about the political shift that we just witnessed and this and that? And there was 2 or 3 teachers, very liberal in my department, stood up and they're just like, we're just so worried about this climate. And my students are they're in fear of walking across campus. So if you and me and the guy that kind of brought me in there, who was my mentor, is a very conservative, like old school dude. And he was sitting there. I could just see his eyes burning. And I was like, don't say anything. Don't say anything, Don. You'll get kicked out. So anyway, it's because of those kinds of things, Jenny, that this indoctrination of these kids in these systems, they get in these classrooms and it's this echo chamber. And as we know, and it starts what Michael was fighting a couple of years ago in Edmond, of it starts at that level. And I think when you have that continued response over times, and maybe it's coordinated, who knows? We could talk about that. Obviously, you guys probably have before, but
well, there are a lot of NGOs that get a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, you take these kids that are impressionable in college, they think this teacher's this higher authority and they know all the things, they learn it, then they become the next row of teachers. Obviously, hint like Travis or my other friend and some of those friend groups have now adopted this ideology. So to me, that's just kind of where it is they take this virtuous approach and they think it's right. They get indoctrinated into this belief and it becomes their religion, so to say. I mean, you hate to say it, but that's just kind of what it takes the place of. And, I think morality plays into a big part of that. Right. So, yeah.
Well, and I think it's kind of important to say, Mark, you were kind of on track when Don was probably going to retire here shortly while you were there. You were on track to probably take over that entire department. Did you leave because
I already did. So Don had retired. He was just there kind of just as a consultant at that time because he had been with the university for a long time. And I took over for him full time of the department head of that area, that position in 2014. And so, I mean, my thing about it was it just became, I would have loved to stay in academia because I loved it. I loved teaching and all the things. And it was awesome and just such a great job. But it became harder, because of all the bureaucratic nonsense at the collegiate level. And it's like, I'm not a tiptoe around like pretend type of person as Michael. And I'm not just going to like have students would come in and be like, hey, they would write me an email before the semester just saying, hey, these are my requirements coming into your class. Like, I need to be called this, and this.
Wait,
if this situation.
What?
Oh, yeah.
In situations, Jenny. In situations that he's got to address them differently in different situations.
Well,
that's how I'm saying it was
getting. You tell a professor what your requirements are?
Yeah, it's because it became this battle cry, right? For these kids that got, think this way. Yeah, so, they would hit us up before the semester, like me and my colleagues, not just me. And they would say, hey, Professor so-and-so, just so you know, I identify as this, please refer to me as blank, blank, blank. And I'm sitting here like looking at my counterpart, like, what is this? Like, because it wasn't really a thing, honestly, until about 2015.
Yeah.
And so, I go through 2015, I go through the majority of 2016. I was like, this is just kind of enough. Like I was telling my wife, I just like, what's the point, And so anyway, that's kind of what led me to leaving academia, especially at the collegiate level. But I mean, I tell you this, I would have parents email me, why is my son or daughter, blah, 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 this and that. And I mean, like, sorry, I can't talk to you. It's against the law, but because they're an adult. So, I mean, it even goes to that level too.
Okay. Now I'm a little completely freaked out here. So you had the parents of students who are adults, right?
Yes.
Enrolled in your class, emailing you about their kids?
Yes, various things. Okay. One, if they couldn't get into my class, why can't my son or daughter get into this class? Blah, 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 blah. And, I would just never respond because some of the classes, it was hard to get into college classes sometimes. Like they get full, they fill up and you're at a big university like Texas State. You're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait your turn or go to school in the summer. But, so yeah, that was like one thing. Or if, little Johnny wasn't coming to school, they would check in to see, are they attending class? How was their grades? That's another thing. Or if they felt like there was a, situation where maybe the needs of the child weren't being met ideologically, send an email, right? So little things like that all the time. But, I would just ignore them because you get, like, I'm a millennial, obviously, but on the older end of the millennial spectrum. But then you catch the kids who they grew up in a lot more coddled situation. So I think it was just a little bit of that, unfortunately.
Well, we need to have you on as since we've got I was saving that for later because I thought that was so great. Because we need to get Don on, but we need to have you back on, Mark, to talk about, because we don't talk about higher education much.
Yeah.
And I know because we've got we have some people who watch, and got a neighbor who teaches at UCO here, and she would love to get on and ping pong off of you. On a show, which would be great. I'll have to.
Mark was a great teacher. I mean, the thing about Mark is he was such a good teacher. I mean, I still call him all the time about certain things, and he just walks me through whatever it is. I mean, there's some people. I mean, I know he said, not everyone's just astutely innate, an innate teacher, but Mark was a fantastic teacher. Really devoted to that entire aspect of human performance and all of that. I mean, it was all the stuff he did.
If you love what you do and you are an expert in the subject matter, it's only going to improve the life of those kids. And so that's the thing I think about too is, a lot of these teachers are probably being held back because they have to teach a certain curriculum a certain way, or we have to present it a certain way because someone might get offended or this or that. Not really collegiately, because but maybe more so with like the younger kids. And that's what's scary about that. I mean, I just got my daughter into a charter school down here. She's going to be 5. And so she's starting school, and it's called Founders, and it's a conservative school, and all conservative education and that kind of thing, Pledge of Allegiance every day and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm excited about her going to that school to see what happens there. But, the college stuff, I mean, I got a bunch of stories about students and crazy things that they were doing. I'll just share this real quick because it's kind of a mind blower, but I had a girl, she stopped coming to class like week 2 and then showed up for the final. And I'm like, hey, I haven't seen you in a couple of months. Everything okay? Because I was going to be nice and just give her like a withdrawal and have her remake up the class and not give her an F, right, for just attendance. And she made up this story that her sister died and all this kind of stuff, crying, this and that. And I was like, okay, look, I'm sorry. Like, that's terrible. I understand what you're going through. It has to be, documented. So you got to give me the obituary, right? That's just how they do it in college. And so nothing. Come to find out the girl had a brother. She didn't even have a sister. So she made up the whole thing. So anyways, like there was stuff going on like that at college all the time. And it's just because of the entitlement and just how these kind of kids feel sometimes. And it's unfortunate that it's like that.
Yeah.
Well, we totally have to bring you on, and let's have you work on that, because I hate to leave Don hanging, because we need to get Don on this morning. But I definitely think we need to have you back on so that we can talk about stuff that's happening in higher education. We talk about K-12 all the time, but I think something's going to have to give, because what's going on right now is not okay.
Yeah, definitely. I hear you. And sorry for talking. Going rambling a little bit, but
I
fault
Michael. He should have had you on for a whole episode, so it's Michael's fault.
Yeah, that is my fault.
It's okay. He was like, just 5 minutes or so. I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. So anyway.
Well, we'll get you on to talk about higher ed, and I'll see if I can get my friend who teaches at UCO. I'm not sure if she'll do it or not, because blowback, but I'll see if I can get her to come on with you. And man, it would be fun to have you guys ping pong off of each other about how the horrors of higher education. So
no problem.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you. And let's get you scheduled with Michael to get on, and let's talk about this more.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. All right, bye, Mikey. See ya.
He calls you Mikey. Wait. Where did you go?
You hit the
There
wrong box.
All right, hit the wrong box. Well, maybe that was on purpose. All right, well, let's see if Don is, because I didn't realize we were going to talk that long. Poor Don's probably like, are they going to have me on this morning? Is Don back? Is Don there?
Yeah, I don't know if his camera's off.
I don't know. Don, is your camera off? Is your camera there? Oops. Yes. No. All right. Well, hopefully he'll be up here in just a second. Becky said, I hear great things about that charter program, the one in Texas, and I'm loving your talk this morning. I've just moved into higher education and had a week. Hearing you've had those weeks too has been nice. And Lisa says, yes, get Mark back on. I like Mark. Oh, okay. Well, we can't see you, Don, so we need to get your camera on so we can bring you on.
Yeah, he may have to log off and log back in.
He may, because he's texting me and saying, I'm here, but we can't see you. See, I don't know if we can hear you either. Yeah. You may have to get off and log back on. I'm sorry about that.
You saw it kind of skip out. It's like the feed kind of went out on them.
Yeah, you may have to log back in and log back out. Sherry Thompson said the student tells you what to expect out of your class. Well, that's completely offensive and unrealistic.
Well, he used to call me literally like every day. He's like, you won't believe what just happened today.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's get Don on here.
Are you there?
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened because I'm looking at my behind the scenes thing, and it's got you in another box, but there's
two
nothing
versions
there.
Well, in honor of Don, I wore my Bolt Chamber group here, my BCG shirt, just for Don.
What is that?
That's the little firing mechanism of an AR-15.
Oh, it is?
I don't know what to do.
Oh, can you hear us? Uh-oh.
It says I'm in the show.
Yes, you are in the show. Can you hear us?
We may need to close out of that other one.
Yeah, we may have to. Hold on a second. Let me I'll kick. But I'm afraid if I kick it out, because it says kick from studio. I'm going to kick it out. Okay, let's see if that works.
Well,
now, Don, can you hear us?
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you not hear us? Sign language.
You may need to text him, Jenny. Tell him we can't hear him.
Yeah.
Or I mean that he can't hear us.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. We can hear him.
Well, I'll try not to cuss too much. I can't hear you guys.
Yeah. See if you can. Here, hold on a second.
Okay, I can't hear you guys.
Okay.
I can see me. I can see things spinning up there with yours.
He may have to get out and
log back off
in.
again. So here we go.
Yeah, let's see if maybe logging back off and logging back on. But I feel like it's going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kick him completely out and let him start over. Totally. And maybe that'll work. I know, kick him out. That's all it says. You don't have an option. It says kick him out. I'm like, well, I don't really want to kick him out, but I mean, I don't know how
I put up that quote. How'd you like that quote from Combs where in the article, the guy's asking him, if he leaves, if he gets put on leave, this is the guy that O'Keefe busted. If he gets put on leave, he says he's going to go to the beach on the taxpayer's dime. That's literally what he says.
Now.
Can you hear us now?
Sir.
Yes. There we
go.
All right, there we go. We're ready.
Yes. All right. I knew eventually we would somehow get it.
Nothing like a flat tire for a Friday morning, huh?
Well, I got to tell you, that's the one thing about doing a live podcast. I mean, at this point, I think Michael and I have virtually seen it all.
You get what you get. That's correct.
Like, we've completely stopped broadcasting on Rumble for some reason. It just quit. So I have no idea what's going on there. So yeah, it's an interesting Friday.
Yeah, I'm just blaming you guys. That's
yeah,
all.
I would. All right. So tell us what's going on at first of all, let me ask you this question because I'm dying to know the answer to this question. How are you feeling about this oversight committee thing going on in the House?
as in the big picture, as long as we're getting bills to move and get to the floor, I'll tolerate it. It's a new system, but there's been a lot of things that have been held back, but we've still got some good bills out that I'd like to talk about. So we'll see how things progress to the floor and things come off the floor to go to the Senate. But the one thing that is amazing is the Oklahoma State Senate. It's practically an about face on legislation that we have moved through, because we've had probably a dozen bills move through that will be moving through this session out of the Senate. It's amazing compared to last session where they had one bill go through. So
well, that's let's talk more about that in a second, but let me go back 1 second to the committees, because I'm curious to know the answer to this question. Are you getting updates on when the oversight committees are meeting?
We are having some technological problems getting the official meeting notices that come through the state website. That has been an issue. We had to literally go back in, create a new account, re-add those bill numbers, and then we started finally getting them to show up.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's what I need to do, because that's what's been hacking me off, is I'm on every list. You know, I've signed up on every list and I get absolutely buckets. I'll get 40 email in my box, but I don't get a single one for when an oversight committee's meeting.
Yeah, because I don't think it's in that list. So you're absolutely right. It may not be. I'm going to go back and check that to see if it shows up in the oversight list. But yesterday I had bills passed, and we're getting the update that the bills had passed.
Okay, so let me ask you this to see if I can figure this out. So you're tracking individual bills. You haven't gone to the House and then just put up in your email to have them send you all the information about the committees.
Well, that's on the official website. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. On the official
But you're
website.
getting the notifications on the bills.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I need to do then, I guess, because I'm not getting them through the regular email House account.
And what we had to do is actually create email accounts, because they only let you do 25, and we watch over 100 bills.
Yeah.
And so we created 4 separate accounts, and now we've created a 5th account, because if any of them move, we want notification on it.
Okay.
To do that with, and that's just part of. And this is why you can't depend on government, folks.
Well, yeah, because I don't think that's transparent at all. I'm super hacked off about it, and I don't need to worry. I don't have bills out there, so I don't need to worry about hacking people off when I say that. But I don't think it's transparent at all, and I'm like super not happy about that.
Right. But I did watch yesterday the bill get passed to move school board elections to the main election cycle. Great job, Chris Banning. Great job, Chris Banning. Good job. So we ought to see that advance.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what kind of and here's a question you made me think it's funny or not.
Questions. That would be good.
So how many other bills I was kind of thinking that the pinnacle of the whole thing was that you got constitutional carry, and then, that was like it. But I swear, Don, you're constantly working on gun bills. What are you doing?
We had 55 introduced this year.
Really? For about what? I'm serious.
Okay,
about what?
Let me back up just a little bit.
Okay.
Oklahoma was founded on progressive liberalism in 1907.
Yes.
Horrible.
Yeah.
The state constitution is an oxymoron. It says your rights shall never be prohibited. And then there's a semicolon that says, but the legislature shall regulate the carrying of weapons. And in 1908, the very first gun bill they did, gun law, was you shall not carry a pistol, rifle, or shotgun on your person, whether loaded or unloaded.
Really?
And so all we've done for over a century is try to get rights back that should have never been taken away. And so in 2009, when OK2A was formed, and in 2010, when I got involved, since then, we have worked and repealed over 13 felonies for the otherwise legal possession of a firearm, ownership or possession of a firearm. 13 felonies. And so we also got a bill passed this week earlier, which goes to repeal another felony. And that is so a person that's been convicted of a nonviolent felony can have some of their gun rights restored back after they've been clean for 5 years. You clean for 5 years. Yeah. Okay. You can't have an AR-15, but you can have a pump shotgun. You can have a revolver, things like that, because it's still self-defense. And also they should be able to go hunting and stuff like that too. So this is some of those things that we worked on, but there's still a lot to do because there's way too many no gun zones still in Oklahoma and if you have to stop and think for 1 minute, hesitate for 1 second, whether you can defend yourself or not, our state is screwed up. It's messed up. And so we've got some major bills that have taken place that I'd love to talk to you about.
We'll talk.
All right. Our number one bill that this year, our main focus is what's called the Private Property Protection Act. It has been passed out of the Senate committees and it's been passed out of House committees. What this bill does right now, you have the right to expect absolute safety within your own home, within your own business, and within your own place of worship. So those walls of your house are physically hold that absolute safety. This bill extends that absolute safety all the way to the edge of your property and includes the defense of your property. This is as big as constitutional carry, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's a firearm. Whatever you have to defend yourself, or when you have to defend yourself, or someone is on your property, they've been instructed to leave and they won't. You have that opportunity to remove them from your property. And if you don't think this doesn't work, Texas has had this since 1845.
So let me ask you to go back on that a little bit, because I think that's kind of an interesting discussion. So I remember, and I'm not going to remember when, you're going to have to be the one that tells all the specifics. I just have the generalities. But I remember we had, and I want to say it was Tom Vineyard, who had an incident happen in his home. And then it was like the state wanted to prosecute him because he had a gun and he was outside of his house or something. Am I remembering this correctly, or did I have a weird dream?
You got part of it right.
Okay.
Tom Vineyard, Pastor Tom Vineyard, is the chairman of the board of OK2A, was involved in a self-defense act. He got a call that his alarm system was going off in his home. He goes home. He is virtually a person is running at him, and he fires his firearm, and this person collapses and dies. And so he had what's called U.S. Law Shield, made that phone call. The attorney was there in 30 minutes. Tom Vineyard was never charged, never handcuffed, never nothing, because it was an act of self-defense. The one you're referring to is out in Midwest City, where a OK2A member was awoken because his son ran in on a Sunday morning and said, "Hey, Dad, someone's beating Mom up out in the front yard." And so he's an armed security officer. And here's the other part. He's also 100% disabled American veteran on oxygen. Goes out to the front. There's 3 thugs there, and his wife's on the ground. He raises his pistol up because one of the thugs starts reaching in a bag, removes him at gunpoint. They obviously have an exchange of words, and he's telling them to leave. The neighbors call, "Hey, this is what's going on." The police show up and arrest the gun owner, the private property owner, for felony pointing of a firearm at these individuals. 2 charges. It took over a year. So we got a bill passed that clarified you can defend yourself in this area. So we're extending this in the private property bill to not just defend yourself, but to defend your property. Because if someone's coming at your house with a Molotov cocktail, I'm sorry, they're toast. Yeah. Got no patience for it. So this is what this is about.
Got no patience. You have no patience for Molotov cocktails?
Don Spencer does not do courtesy lead. We'll put it that way. So there you go.
The castle laws seem to change each November. Now I know why.
You're welcome.
Well, that's what Lisa said. Lisa said, "This is huge," except she misspelled it. It's spelled with a Y. And she loves you, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's a big one. So that's the Private Property Protection Act, and you said
Correct.
it's already passed the Senate, so it's going over to the
No,
House.
it's passed. No, it's passed out of committee in the Senate, and it's passed out of committee and it's ready for the floor in both chambers.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. So what's your next one?
Next one. Was that not enough? No. The next one, Representative Cross-White Hater and also our new Senator Sacchieri have both passed. And a lot of people may be violating this and have no clue they've done it, which is why this needs to be fixed a long time ago. But if you have a handgun license, a valid license, you drive up onto a public school property, you leave your gun in your car locked out of view, you go inside to whatever the kids' event is or whatever and come back out, it's perfectly legal. This bill makes that apply to a person that does not have a handgun license. So it's constitutional carry in that same spot. It clarifies that it can take place. That is another big thing that needs to be cleaned up. And also we do cleanup language inside of this stuff to make it read better and be more efficient, because I'm an instructor. And so I just know that this helps for people to understand what can I do, what can I not do. That's what they want to know, quite simply. That's one of the other ones we have going on. As I had mentioned earlier, Senate Bill 381 by Senator Bullard, we call it the Felon Forgiveness Act. And like I say, that's for nonviolent felons who have been convicted. They're clean, 5 years clean record. They have some of their rights restored on that. Let me know if you want me to stop. Now, I heard you guys talking about higher ed. Let me add to your deep concerns, because you guys pay taxes. Your taxes are confiscated from you. You don't have a choice. They're confiscated from you. You send them to the state capitol. The state capitol sends them to higher ed. Higher ed hires a lobbyist to come back to the state capitol to work against our Second Amendment rights.
And others,
and others, and free speech and others. So we have Senate Bill 636 by Senator Alvord, which stops this. No public funds are used against the Second Amendment, and we've got that. This is a huge deal. We consider that very important. So, I don't know about you. It's really nice to be a guy like me working against a multi-$100,000 a year lobbyist, buying off legislators to get our rights squelched. So,
well, I was just a little bit disappointed because I was hoping that meant you'd gotten lobbyists on taxpayer dollars stopped.
Well, it will be part of it. It's part of it. We're working. This I think is an incremental step to get all the way there.
Yeah, so, and I agree.
In the OK2A, we've been built on incrementalism. You take a step at a time, because I saw right off the bat, if you think you're going to go for a grand slam home run every time, you're going to be sitting on the bench. And,
I remember the early years.
Oh yeah. We first started talking about constitutional carry. They thought I had 9 eyeballs, and it took us 10 years to get it on the governor's desk and signed. Who
was the she passed away, but there was a House of Representatives, a member of the House of Representatives who was a Republican, remember, who
Sue Tibbs
screamed at you. Oh, Sue Tibbs. That's right.
Yeah. And also, let's be clear too, before the meeting was over with, she was offering to bake me cookies because I showed her where she was so wrong. So, that's also what OK2A, when we go in there, I don't go in there as an in-your-face kind of deal. We look at it, okay, you took an oath. Here's the Constitution. If you don't hold up to your oath, if you don't protect the Constitution, it's nothing personal. We will find someone that will. And as you guys know, we've been somewhat involved in replacing some of these people that would not hold their oath. And like I say, some people hate us as a result of us, and some of them love us because we got their back. Yeah. And this is why we at OK2A have been so effective on the fact that you point out a problem in the law. You point out, here's how you fix it. And then you have the manpower behind it to support it. This is why we've had over 150 positive changes in state law in the past 15 years.
Very good.
And so that's why we're now. Also, we have Senator Gillespie and also Representative Hildebrandt both have bills so municipal employees can carry while on the job with the approval of the city council. This already exists for county employees. It needs to apply to cities, and you guys know some of these small little towns, their security is not there. And I don't care if you're in a big town, I still think you need your own personal security.
Yeah, we had that problem we had that problem in Luther when we were in our original building when I was mayor there, and we had a problem with, I mean, we were worried. You couldn't control who came in the door, and at that point in time, we had some mentally unstable people who were living kind of on the streets, and we were worried about that. And we found out that she couldn't carry that our city manager couldn't carry a firearm to protect herself, and so that's a good thing.
Right. So this, and actually all that created, I live in Logan County. We were the first county to adopt it after we got the law passed. And I based it all on this one lady, and that she was about 115 pounds. She worked in the clerk's office, and there were times that she would take as much as $50,000 in cash to the bank for the county. And she said, I just want to be able to protect myself. And I'm thinking, who's going to stop that? It's crazy. And she said, the deputies they can't always be around, and sometimes I got to leave as early as 5 and 6 in the morning. It's dark and by myself. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to get this done. And so, I mean, she may be carrying a gun now that's bigger than she is, I hope. But again, it's an equalizer. This is why the Second Amendment is so important. It's also a deterrent to crime, which goes back to the Private Property Protection Act. Somebody comes on my property and I can remove them even at gunpoint if I need to. It's a deterrent, because right now, under current laws and court rulings, if I pull that gun out, I basically have to shoot you in self-defense to justify it. There's not an in-between. Yeah, oh yes. Exactly. That's why the story I told you from the guy from Midwest City, that's why he was charged with 2 felonies, because there's no in-between.
That's so weird, Don. That doesn't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't. But that's Oklahoma law that we've been working to correct. And the only reason we have not gotten these things corrected until now is because the Republicans.
Really? We've not had that problem around here.
I hang on. The sarcasm's coming through the lens there.
That was very drippy, wasn't it? It just was very drippy. So I wanted to ask you a question before we finish up with your list.
Okay.
So I remember very well, I remember when OK2A was started. I remember because we were all at the Capitol, this whole group of us that, kind of started together. We were all at the Capitol, and I will never forget so many, and I think it was Mary Fallon, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Mary Fallon whose argument against constitutional carry was that it was going to be the Wild West.
That was one of the terms, but see, she was being propagated by that because of higher education, the municipal league, all kinds of stuff. But this is how I went into this. This is a mission field for me. People don't know and understand your right to self-defense is a God-given protected right. So I've gone into this as a mission field and opened people's eyes up that in Exodus 22:2, when it's stated that if a thief is struck while breaking into your home and you strike him, there's no blood guilt and it's on you. And our Make My Day law is based specifically off of that. Someone enters your home, you have the right to finish it. It's over. It's done. So that's why I've worked on this so long too. But Mary Fallon, when she vetoed that bill, constitutional carry, her last thing literally going out the door, I received death threats because I was told I was in collusion with her because it was going to cost me money because then I wouldn't be able to teach classes, which was just a crock of crap. But people, you can't get them to understand. They were so upset. But I also knew that was going to be a political springboard. And what was the issue going into that next election? And what did the very first bill Stitt signed? the first bill. And also it went through in the month of February and was signed into law in February. Name one other bill you've ever seen that happen. It just doesn't happen. So we knew that at least I knew it was going to be a springboard for other and better things that was coming along. And so there you go.
Well, here's the thing that I was going to point out to you at the end was how many times have we seen it? We've not seen the Wild West in the media can't even come up. They can't even make up stories about the Wild West, but they can report stories like the one that happened at, what was it, Louis by Lake Hefner, where, a guy went crazy and some guy who was carrying, put the guy down. I mean, it seems to me that you've been vindicated over and over and over and over as these stories come out, and the media can't even make up ones that make it sound like, it's the Wild West and we're going to,
They quit even calling me because they know what the response is going to be. And the more you eliminate these no gun zones, the less crime you're going to see, because, hey, Granny may pull a 38 out of her pistol and stop this stuff. And she don't have to have no license or nothing. Yeah. So we looked at that, and we've also passed bills. One of the ones I'm really proud of is protecting a place of worship. For the thought that a church could be sued out of existence because a self-defense act took place is completely unacceptable. Completely. So that's one of the ones we've worked to clarify. A place of worship has absolute safety, just like your home or your business.
Good deal. Because my goodness, the one in Texas, wasn't it the one that was an absolute, well, it was a bad example. It was a horrendous example of what can happen when a mentally ill individual, picks out religion as the cause for their, problems and goes into a church and shoots people.
And it also shows the perfect example that the scenario is stopped the sooner the second firearm shows up.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
So, and there was one of the members that guy had shot one guy and was going to shoot another, and that member within seconds folded the guy, just folded him and stopped him. Yeah. So, and again, that's Texas. Did you hear that guy getting harassed for using a gun for self-defense in Texas? No. That's why we need that attitude here.
Yeah, for sure.
And also insurance will go down as a result of this too, because theft of private property will be slowed down tremendously.
Oh. Yep. So what are the other ones that you've got?
Also, well, you guys may remember last year for the election, there was this little threat by a person that I call religiously challenged that was wanting to disrupt the election by going in and shooting it up. And so we have a bill passed that will verify that you can carry a concealed handgun while you are voting, and it's completely clear. There's no doubt about it. And so we think that this will also be a deterrent to clarify, to get rid of a no-gun zone for this to take place. So there you go.
Now, has that is that in a committee? Has it gone through a committee? Where is that?
It's passed out of committee. It's on the Senate floor waiting to be heard.
Okay, so that sounds good. So we've got this is a new viewer that Lisa brought in. This is Anthony Andel. He has has a business, Oklahoma Armorers, and he says, I'd say churches should be protected to the level of banks or better. And I think that's why many have security now, especially large ones. But again, you never, it's true. Some have security, but it's best just to be armed.
Let me delve into that 1 second on the church security.
Mm-hmm.
I am stunned at the amount of pastors in the pulpit that will prohibit the carry for self-defense.
Really?
Unbelievable. It's an abject failure of the pulpit. But the pulpit had already failed us anyway, because the pulpit should be telling us, killing a baby before it has a chance to be born. But they're we'll lose our 501c3. Now you tell me something. Did Jesus say, take my word into the world? unless you lose your 501c3. No, I don't think that second caveat was in there. So, but this is the failure. But there are churches, and I love some of them. Some of them I refer to as the like the Militia Baptist Church, because I'm telling you, if someone comes into one of those places, they're not going to get very far.
No, they will not.
Prepared, and that's the way it should be. Even Scripture clearly stated that the weapons of war were in the temple when King David was there.
Oh, yeah, that's
true.
They
weren't there for show. That wasn't bling. True. Yeah. So it's not a new concept, and actually man hasn't changed that much, because we've got documents for thousands of millennia or several millennia on this. So that's why you should be prepared in these situations.
Well, and that Lisa follows that up by saying, whoops, Beck. Churches and synagogues are sitting ducks, all facing the same direction, away from the door. Any church that required me to leave my peace or peace.
Right. Don't go to church there.
That's right. And then OK Armor says there is an aspect of saving face to those in their personal group. In my opinion, maybe they have loved ones or close friends that would judge them. And I mean, I think you've seen that too. Yep. But we just talked about this the other day, Michael, you and I on Wednesday, about the fact that you've got to be true to your belief system and not let people influence your decision-making process. If it's right, if it's just and right.
Right. And also I deal as an instructor. There's been times I've dealt with people trying to teach them to safety, use a firearm and stuff. And I've let them know you've got no business carrying a gun. Yeah. It's just not for you. It's not for you. I'll teach you enough so you can defend yourself inside your home, but you don't. And they make that decision, and they often make the right decision for that. I said, let's get you some pepper spray. Let's get you this and that. Find something else. But that's what's so good about our constitutional rights. It's up to you, just like when to speak, and then sometimes you need to know when to shut up, along with that too. But the Second Amendment falls directly under that same concept. You need to be able to exercise it, and it's like a muscle. If you don't exercise it, it'll get flabby, and there you go.
Yeah. It's very true. I don't practice like I need to. So, unfortunately, I don't carry much because
blasphemy.
I know,
oh my God.
Because I just have to make myself practice, and it just is one of those things that ends up getting lost, because I'm not going to carry if I don't feel like I can use it appropriately. That's
your, and again, that's back to your choice. But it's a fact. When you need a gun, nothing else will do.
No, and that's true, because you can't shoot pepper spray. You can't shoot at 150 feet.
Right, exactly.
So I totally get it. I just am I remember one time going to a training with, and it was a training I think our church at the time provided, and a woman who was an older woman who had never handled a firearm before. And I've at least done that. My husband was in the Army, and I have been basically trained. I just don't practice like I should. And she turned around with her finger on the trigger and turned around.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, no, I'm done with this. I am removing myself from the situation. I know people, I'm sure, would like to see that happen to me, but I'm not wanting that to happen. And so I did not. And that, I think that one instance really honestly kind of scared me into thinking, well, I'm not going to carry if I don't feel like I can do it responsibly.
Right.
Because I don't want to hurt somebody else.
And the same thing for driving. It's a responsibility. If you can't do it, you shouldn't be doing it. It's like that. So
I agree.
Anyway. But that's basically, we've got some other stuff, but that's our heavy hitting stuff we've got going now. This week also in the Senate Public Safety Committee, I've got another bill, Senate Bill 40 by Senator McIntosh. This bill is clarifying that, and this has been an issue, but believe it or not, California has successfully had gun prohibitions in Oklahoma. They have actually gun law in Oklahoma, and this is how they're doing it. People that drive for Uber or Lyft, it's based out of California. California says, so what they say is, hey, you can't have a gun in your car. You can't have and neither can your passengers. Neither can your passengers. So California's anti-gun is working in Oklahoma. So we have this bill that says that they cannot create a policy to prohibit the carry of a firearm in a personal vehicle, not a company vehicle, a personal vehicle while doing work or contract for a company. So this is one of the bills, and also it has other applications. There's been we actually have an OK2A member whose brother was murdered for delivering pizzas.
Oh,
so
no.
Right, and was not allowed to carry a firearm, and pulls up and the guy's shooting him before he could even get out of the car with the pizza. So that's what's transpired. So it's got multiple applications, but it's your car. It's an extension of your home. There is no way this should be taking place for California to be controlling guns in Oklahoma, and they are.
Yeah.
So that's one we're pushing back. Also, and I know Jenny, you're going to love this bill. This has just got you written all over it. But Senate Bill 123 by Senator Burns, this is going to clarify that a person, a made in Oklahoma suppressor to go on your gun to lower the sound, it's made in Oklahoma, it stays in Oklahoma, it's good to go. So we're looking to get that passed. Texas did this a couple of years ago. So,
well, I do like the made in Oklahoma aspect of it, but I'm not sure, why do I need a suppressor?
It takes that loud crack out of the shot.
No. You were saying I would really like this one, and I was like,
I was dripping the sarcasm back towards you.
Because mine isn't even the noise; it's the kickback. You know,
this reduces the kick.
Does it really? Does the suppressor reduce the kick too?
It reduces the kick and improves accuracy. Absolutely.
Well, then I definitely need to look into that, because I'm one of those crazy people who I'll shoot straight. I'll go right to the middle the first time, and then after that, I'm like all over the place because I'm scared to kick. So it's something I have to work on. And OK Armor said, just a quick note, look into dry fire laser training, and I do need to do that, because I need to
we do a ton of that at our house, Jenny. All the kids, we had literal contests. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, sitting on the couch, we'll just be sitting there, they'll like dry fire over to the front door like somebody's coming in.
Right. That's the practice. Absolutely. We practiced with our kids when they were small on tactical, in case, my wife and I weren't home and someone was to try to come in. Well, I say, woe to the intruder, man, because they weren't going to get very far at all with our kids. And we trained them as young as 8 years old with it. So, I'm just
and I liked what he said about my animals, and my neighbors really appreciate it when I shoot suppressed, and that's true, because out here we have people shooting ordnance. I'm not kidding.
Right.
We have a guy up the street who literally shoots ordnance, and we're like, oh my gosh! And so my dogs are scared to death. So if you get out the guns, you'll never see them. I mean, they're gone for like 24 hours.
It's 4th of July every weekend.
That's right. They can't take it.
But that's basically what I've got. I mean, that's all. We're just slacking otherwise. That's about all I got.
Slacking. Yeah, that sounds like it. Okay. Can you do me a favor though? Would you send those to me, email or text them to me, and then when I write up our piece from today, then I'll stick them all in there, and so everybody.
But you realize, Jenny, if you're an OK2A member, you would be receiving this in the email. You'd be received by text.
I know.
You would be so up to date. It'd be rough. I mean, how could you? So then you can join at OK2A.org. Anyone watching, join us. Hey, we're up there fighting this. We're up there keeping an eye on this. No one else.
And you have text messages for people who are watching who don't know. You have text messages when you need to call, for bills and all that kind of stuff.
And also, let me go over real quick to what we've stopped, because what's important is obviously getting stuff in, but what we've also stopped. This year, the bill that is being slowed down to stop is Senate Bill 399 by Senator Brooks. And I heard you all talking earlier. Senator Brooks wants to give illegal aliens in Oklahoma an Oklahoma driver's license.
Yes.
And I do not comprehend this. I do not comprehend this. And I also make it clear from OK2A's point. We don't care. We don't care if ICE goes to pick up a parent and their kids are at the public school. Go to the public school, round them all up, send them out of the country at the same time, keep them together. We are not concerned about that. Get them out of here. The expense has been astronomical, along with people like Bob Berry Jr. was killed by a drunk driver that was an illegal alien. So get them out. They got to go. Thank you,
I don't think
Trump.
you and your governor are on the same page with that.
Nope. And I do not comprehend that. I don't get it. He's been good on other stuff, but I don't understand that. I agree 100%.
Yeah, bad.
And I'm glad how you gave him that. He's my governor, and I didn't notice that he was yours.
Well, you know how that works when your kids do something bad.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm forever doing that. Your son, your daughter. He's like, when did she get to be mine?
Right.
Yeah, and Amber says absolutely no driver's license for illegals. Absolutely. I mean, I haven't seen a bill like that though this year.
Yes, Senate Bill 399.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Well, Don,
really?
I wanted to ask back on that suppressor bill, the one, what was it, 123, SB 123?
Correct.
Yes.
Is that if it passes and it's Oklahoma made and you buy it in Oklahoma, I mean, does that negate like the federal tax stamp and the registration and all that, or how does that part work?
You will be able to purchase it right next to the donuts at the convenience store.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. But do not leave Oklahoma with it. But as long as it stays in Oklahoma, everything's good to go.
Yeah. Well, but hey, that's another one. You had a bill, or was it a federal bill? So sorry about that. I'm so confused trying to I liked it better when I just did education because I could keep up with that. Now I'm trying to do everything and I'm not good at anything anymore. But I don't know if it's a federal bill or a state bill that talked about being able to reciprocal carry in other states.
That was a federal bill.
Okay.
And that looks like it may have some actual traction. But here's the other part of that is I think they're waiting because the courts are about to, the U.S. Supreme Court is about to overturn and flip that. It was called the Bruin decision from 2022. And basically the Bruin decision says whatever the gun laws were in 1791 apply today. And so if there weren't suppressors in 1791, so since there's no law against a suppressor, you can't prohibit it today. There age restrictions didn't exist. A felon, after they were incarcerated, had their weapons backhanded to them and left. All these types of things, and you're going to continue to see these repeals take place. And of course, states like California, New York are going to fight it all the way. Yeah. But they brought it on themselves. But the thing is, you're going to see it that a handgun license, like in Oklahoma, is going to be called unconstitutional, and that a person can carry in any state. You're going to see that happen.
Well, I would hope so, because I know that people have gotten in trouble for that. It's
called the Second Amendment.
Yeah. And it just doesn't even seem fair. It's like, well, in my state, I can do it. Why am I, why do I have to, if I go on a road trip,
right?
Why do I have to check every single state to make sure I can have my gun in my car? That's just obnoxious.
Right. And the fact is, federal law protects you having the gun in your car, but it doesn't protect you if it's loaded or not. So this is why this is coming back up with that. But
so I guess if you just throw it at them, if you just throw your gun at somebody, that's
if you're gonna throw a gun, you can throw it at me because I'll probably try to catch it. So,
but that's what I mean. I mean, how silly is that? That's just silly.
Well, keep in mind on the stand your ground law and make my day law. In some of these states, you're required to retreat from the bully, the thug, whatever, as far as you can before you can use a weapon for self-defense. Oklahoma, anywhere you have the legal right to be, you have the legal right to defend yourself. And it's pretty clear. So, and we're continuing to do things, like I say, with the Private Property Protection Act to reinforce. So law enforcement, so the district attorneys and judges, we're putting the handcuffs on them instead of on us having to worry about, okay, this guy's coming from my yard. He's carrying a bat or a tool or something. He's talking trash to me. At what point do I have to stop or can defend myself? You shouldn't have to consider it. It should be spoken for itself. So there you go.
Completely agree. As a matter of fact, we kept one of our shotguns in our older son's room. He actually liked to shoot and was proficient at it, and we kept it up there in case something happened, and we were otherwise something, and at least they'd have some protection upstairs. Well, I talked to him one time about it. We were having a conversation. He said, well, but the only thing that worries me is that, am I going to get in trouble for using it? And I stopped a second and I thought, that's not even right. I mean, my kids shouldn't think,
right. Exactly. Oklahoma has been so backwards for so long and has ignored constitutional rights on this. And so that's what we're working to defend this. But when I teach a class, and I love having grandmas in the class, and I get this question, if someone is taking my kid away, can I shoot them? And my first response is, well, I don't know how good a shot are you, but I was
going to say aim for the legs.
but the second part, no, we aim for center mass. We're
was saying if it was a kid.
But the second part is, I said, do you really care what the law is if someone's taking that child away and you're never going to see them again? And grandmas will say, you're right, I don't care. Yeah. So that's it. So that's the driving force is nature's self-defense in this. And so, and you're not going to mess with grandma taking that grandkid. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. And a mom too. So we need to have the laws reflect nature. You're screwing with someone's kid, you may die. Yeah, exactly. That could happen. And you know what? An armed society is a polite society.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've never understood that whole, and I used to get so mad when Fallon would say that thing about, oh, it's going to be the Wild West if we let, and it's like, I'm so tired of hearing you say that, because it's not going to be. And we were all right about that. Every single one of us that believed that was bunk, we were right. And we've had such great, we've just not had anything happen in this state that would indicate anything other. I don't think, unless I'm just looking only at one side. Am I wrong?
You're just looking at the news media, the legacy media that has propagated this lie for so long. Yeah. And so we've even had in this state Moms Demand Action, which is an anti-gun group. They've been at the Capitol a lot. I haven't seen them this year. I think that we've been just such a steamroller that we wore them out and they've given up. So, so that's why we have to stay on offense. And that's why you see 55 bills introduced, because I want them to look at that and they go, holy cow, what these guys, why even waste our time? I mean, the place is full of Republicans in their thought. Of course, you and I both know they're not all Republicans, but anyway, I digress.
Yeah, we could go down that road and it would be long and rocky.
It would, right. Plenty of potholes.
Yeah.
We've already renamed them to the GOB, the good old boys.
Yeah.
GOP.
Yeah, I like GOB. I'm with that. All right. So Don, is there anything else that you want to let us know about?
I think that we've covered pretty good here. I think that about does it.
Okay, perfect. Well, like I said, if you'll send
May I be excused from the table? Can I be excused from the table now, Mom? Can I go?
Yes, Don, you may be excused, and don't forget peas for sure this weekend.
Is it okay? It's the time. Got it.
Peas.
Planting time. Got it.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah. Put up that comment from Amber while Don's still on here.
What was the comment? Okay. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Hey, my husband's great grandma in Idaho in the 1800s. She shot a known rapist in the area trying to break into their home while the menfolk had gone to town for a couple of days. Menfolk came home, found him on the ground, and buried him.
It's like Yellowstone or something.
Great family stories. And also Idaho is one of those states that you don't mess with someone's property. You don't do it. And you think about it too. Texas Texas fought for its statehood.
Oh, yes, they did.
I mean, and they say, when they say come and take it, they're not kidding.
Yeah.
Oklahoma stole the land, had a race, and divvied it up. Our football team's called the Sooners when it should really be called the Thieves or the Cheaters.
But it's
that's
true.
Really, I mean, that's what. And so, if you look across that Red River, the attitude, you look in Texas, you see that state flag everywhere. In Oklahoma, you only see it in a very few places, not even in classrooms.
I never thought of that, Don.
And that pride, Texas, those kids are taught Texas history before they're out of the 6th grade. They understand what their forefathers did. Oklahoma, yeah, just whatever, but don't have any guns. It's what it's down to. So we're actually dealing with a culture change. This is also why I go back to just a couple of years ago, we got a bill passed so you could legally shoot airsoft pistols and rifles on your own property inside the city, because it was most city ordinance had a law against it.
Really?
And as long as that pellet doesn't leave your property, everything's cool. And we did this for a number of reasons, because, Jenny, I always have more motivations than what's just merely in front of you there, is that get people and parents out in their yard shooting pistols and handguns. And kids get this basic training and the basic ideology of how a firearm will work.
That's how my boys did it.
The second part of this that makes it so important is now that can be taught in a public classroom.
Oh.
Because those plastic pellets travel 250 feet per second. You can set up a target inside of a classroom and have kids shooting and working and how that works. They can actually be doing that also. So that is what's been huge, because we got to get it back to the kids and the culture young and get them hooked, like fishing or hunting or soccer or whatever their sport is, young. And so they know, you know what? My dad has guns and he's actually a good guy. My mom has guns. She's a good guy. We just, why is all this stuff so negative and bad? So that's what we have to continue to push back to. And I think that this is one of those ways of getting there. And because we all know shooting them bullets out of real guns, it gets expensive and adds up, and you got to have a place to do it. But this is also a great starter, like I say, for kids. So there you go.
No, I'm 100% with you. That's what my kids did. They did airsoft rifles for years and years and years. And yes, it does make them a really good shot with actual ammunition.
Well, it sounds like you'd be a good candidate to be an OK2A member. I may be mistaken. I may be mistaken. Yeah, that's right, Jenny. Stick a crowbar in your wallet, pop out a quarter. Let's go. Okay.
You're killing me. I got to put this one up because this is funny. Culture change, more like a change from hot dogs to weed.
Well, I may need to analyze that some more. From hot dogs to wieners.
Yeah, and Lisa has a point. A lot of that is simply cultural, though. Texas is rapidly purpling, too, with many counties now firmly blue. It won't be long, I suspect, till the scales tip. And I guess that's what goes back to what you said earlier, though, Don, is, I mean, you can't ever stop,
Right. But also, I got family that lives in Texas, and I'll tell you, those Californians that are bringing that cancer of communism basically into Texas, those Texans will not put up with it. Look what they've done at that border. Look what their governor's done at the border, the lieutenant governor, their attorney general. I mean, they are a cohesive working together to defend Texans. And like I say, the purple is definitely within an area of Austin, but also in Texas, you can carry a concealed handgun into that state capitol.
Wow.
Perfectly
legal.
legal.
You would think.
And I'm working on that here too.
But then their legislature only meets every 2 years too.
You can get in the door carrying a loaded handgun.
Yeah.
So Texans, and also, I mean, those teachers, school teachers, can carry a loaded handgun in that classroom. I mean, they are so advanced on so many gun laws ahead of us. It's not even funny.
Where are we on that, by the way? Because I know you've pushed that for a number of years. The guns in the classroom. So where are we on that?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because Adam Pugh has that bill on his desk, and we would like for it to be heard next week. We do have. Teachers can carry the classroom with the approval of the school board, but the problem is they have to be an armed security guard or an actual a cop. And so we have a bill that has 24 hours of training instead of 72 hours of training. And the 24 hours is directly related to what they're doing, as opposed to the 72 hours. The first 40 hours of an armed security guard class is a total waste of time. I have the license. It's a total waste. So it's got to be feasible. It's got to work in these rural schools that don't have resource officers. This is an answer of many things that need to take place. It's not the only thing. We need the hardest schools. We need better security all the way around. But and I just love, hang on here with me, when someone says, well, we've got cameras up. And I go, does that camera come down and stop a thug, a crazy that's shooting the place up? Or do we get a really nice high definition video of our loved ones being massacred? Because that sounds great to me. Because I want to see the high definition of that happening. So this is the other thing that somehow that magically, and I'm not anti-cop, but they can't be everywhere. And the fact is, we don't want them everywhere. Right. So it's up to us. No law enforcement officer is responsible for any individual citizen, and the citizen needs to be able to exercise their right to self-defense without question. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, Don, that was very informative. I'm so glad you came on. I really enjoyed that, and talking about some history too. That's super helpful.
Okay. All right. Should I nag you one more time to be a member, or should we just move on?
You can nag. How about nagging everybody this time?
Yeah, it's all right. I appreciate it. But other than that, I don't know how long we've gone here, but.
Well, Don, what is like if someone wants to join the OK2A, what do they need to do? How much does it cost?
Go to OK2A
website and membership and all that anyway.
Yeah, you can go to OK2A.org. You can join for $25. That's an annual membership. We've also got $5 a month. There's also huge amounts. Jenny, you would seem to be the type that could put a number of zeros behind that. We would not be offended if that happened. But just go to our website, OK2A.org. Take a look at it. Like I say, folks, we'll keep you informed. We'll put you on the email list, the text list. We don't text just for the fun of it. We text you when it's important. And that's one of the great things. When I send out a text, there's nothing better than a legislator coming up to me and says, tell them to stop calling.
Yeah.
It's the best. It is the best. And of course, I look at my watch. Yeah, I'll get right to that. Yes. And Jim is listening to us. So
that's not why I'm paying for that service, actually, but thank you.
And I'm like a lot of people too. I know it's important. Just let me know when the building's on fire, so I know when it's time to help put it out. That kind of stuff.
Right.
We'll keep you informed on that stuff. So there you go. And if you, we'll let you know if illegal aliens are going to get a driver's license. We'll keep you informed.
Yeah. Thank you.
You bet.
Seriously. All right. Well, Don, you have a great weekend. Get those peas in and the other things.
Can I leave the table now, Mom?
You may.
All right. Thank you.
Good to see you, Don.
Y'all
Take
have a good
care.
day. Bye now.
All right. Bye. That was I loved that. I mean, honestly, some of the stuff about, what he said about the difference between Texas and Oklahoma, and that they fought for their freedom and we stole it, essentially. I mean, I never had really put that in I don't think I'd ever really thought about that in that perspective. And I think that's got something to do with it.
Well, that Texas pride, like you said, that Texas flag is everywhere. I'll tell you, literally every single guy I know that lives in Texas has some kind of Texas tattoo in one way or another, whether it's the flag or the state or, whatever on them.
Well, we didn't see Mark's this morning.
Yeah. He got plenty of tattoos. Trust me.
Maybe Jenny can trade you some farm goods for membership.
Yeah, there we go.
That's true. All I need to do is proffer up a couple or 3 dozen eggs, but Don already has that, so I don't think it's.
Well, on a couple of those things that I think people just forget about. Like, yes, there's the whole defend your property, protect yourself, but where do, and not just from the crime and thieves and things like that, but look at like all these mass shootings, Jenny. Where do they take place? They take place in these no gun zones, where they know they can go in there. They know that there's no security like that. I mean, you eliminate those things. No one's going to go like the comment who made the comment, no one's going to, it was John Boy. No one's going to go into a police station and try to do a mass shooting. It's just that same old deal.
Well, and John actually said Oklahoma has more flags of different countries flying than they do the state or the U.S. flag. It's sad, in my opinion. I didn't even really notice that, but maybe so. I just didn't.
Well, you know what? When Don was talking about rounding up all the immigrants and getting them out of here, that it just struck me. I was like, well, Jenny, how are we going to have 71 different languages in the education system if we do that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We definitely. There's got to be. We need to delve
associated with it.
Mm-hmm. We need to delve into that. And I wish I could. I have so many tabs up this morning. It's honestly not funny. Because I do our weekly newsletter, so I have all these tabs up. But one of them, let me see if I can just find it, because it was, DHS will require migrants without legal status to register with the U.S. government. Okay, so listen, DHS will require migrants without legal status to register with the U.S. government. And people are like, okay, well, why? What difference does that make? What's the big deal? Well, to me, the big deal about that is you've got the feds that are doing something different than what the state is doing. So just like, and by the way, did you happen to know that Governor Stitt gave an interview to Politico about how he is badgering the president not to relent on the green energy incentives?
Wow. Well, there must be a pretty good, incentive package there for him in one way or another. Little golden parachute.
Well, I mean, number one, Politico is definitely left-leaning. And their pro subscription is so high. Do you remember this? That Doge came out and said, we have $8 million in Politico subscriptions here. We're not going to pay all of that. Remember that?
Yeah.
So here he is giving an interview to Politico, and where he's saying that he wants he wants Trump to do the anti-Republican thing and keep stealing our tax dollars to shove it into incentives for green energy. This is our own Governor Kevin Stitt. I mean, I'm so infuriated by this. And it's not just that. I mean, I've written about his stance on illegal immigration. So if you're an adult, then he's going to work with ICE. And if you're an adult that is illegal, that is either violent or has a record, he will work with ICE to get you out. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay here. Come on, use our schools. It's okay. Whatever you want to do. So frustrating. Did you hear about the last school board meeting with the new 3 members?
No.
Apparently, we'll have to ask our friend Visit or somebody who's actually gone. Hold on a second. I got to go back to this one because Jeremy says, Stitt has sold us out. I follow him on X, and he sounds reasonable, mainly when he's working in his garden. Otherwise, he's scheming. Right there with you, bud. I could have written that one myself. And then Amber says, maybe a good payday for the government and his cronies. And I want to say something about that before I finish my other topic. So we had this discussion, you and I, one time when I was uncovering all the carbon capture stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
So much of that crap, that green crap, is privately funded through these crazy things. You've talked about them, these investor things. So I want to know, and there's got to be a way to find out, because we all know that Mark Wayne Mullen and Nancy Pelosi have been benefiting from insider stock trades. I mean, at least it's been reported that they have been. I would like to know, don't we have a right to know what our governor invests in, especially if he seems to be hell-bent for leather on a track that most Oklahomans seem not to be?
Well,
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't people in policy places, people who make policy, shouldn't we have a right to know what their investments are?
Well, yeah, I mean, in my opinion, you shouldn't be allowed, if you're going to take public office, that's a sacrifice you're going to make to represent the people. There should be no enrichment. You should not be allowed to trade like equities and all that stuff. I mean, in my opinion, you say, hey, I'm going to take these, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, whatever it may be. I'm not going to enrich myself. I'm actually going to do the work for the people of the people in this deal. You shouldn't even be allowed to do any of that stuff, in my opinion, because what do we know? I mean, everyone goes into office and they come out massively, richer.
Well, and we do know one thing, because, and I reported this in one of our articles, and I can't think of which one it is right off the top of my head, but I think it was the tax incentive one. So we do know that Governor Stitt still had investments in Gateway Mortgage in different ways when he became the governor. And then we also know that Gateway has been getting, I don't remember how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I don't think it's millions, but I think it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'll have to go back and check, in tax incentives from the state of Oklahoma. And who seems to regulate those? It's supposed to be regulated by the Commerce Department, but who appoints the commerce officials? The governor does. Governor does. I mean, to me, that is back ass words. All of that's how it's like the fox in the hen house. Somebody else should be, if we're going to have a commerce department, which my argument is going to be, the answer is no, we don't. But if we're going to have one, somebody else needs to be putting people into that other than the governor, who then goes on to give tax incentives to people that from a mortgage company that he used to own. Yeah. I just think
that's that swinging door of politics, of government in general. I mean, look, go to the highest levels. You got the guys that are supposed to be overseeing, like the FDA or the USDA or, all these different, organizations. They literally go to work in the private sector, either before or after, or both. They do their term. They do the bidding of all these corporations to enrich themselves. I mean, that's what it is. I mean,
and so many people don't even know. And if they knew that all of this was happening, they'd be incensed about it. But then the only thing that you can do about our governor at this point, because he's a lame duck governor, you can't do anything about that until 2026. Well, and I'm not really certain who's thrown their hat into the ring right now that I'm just nuts about voting for.
Well, I'm thinking about this. I mean, and we've talked about this multiple times. The government literally picks winners and losers when it comes to the corporate side of all of this. So if you're in any type of position like that, you can pick the businesses or the models or the technologies or whatever you want, or because you can direct subsidies that way. You can direct, other commerce in that direction, and that way ahead of time, just like when you get down into your city councils and all those things, the guys on there, they're seeing the development projects, 10 years from now, 5 years from now. And they're going out and buying up the land or whatever, just like the turnpike when we've got the Pike Off girls on. And they're literally telling us how they sell those properties, they confiscate them, sell them back to the people they want.
It's not, it's not. And here's the other thing on the green agenda, and I'm going to get some comments up. So just hang on a second, because you guys have got some great comments. Just give me 1 second. So here's the thing that really, really hacks me off about the whole green thing. So how well did Stitt do Pick and Canoe?
That was pretty good, I think.
What a giant taxpayer boondoggle was Canoe. And now you look at the millions and millions of dollars we're giving NextEra, for example, for all of their little tax incentives. But then how much of that energy stays in Oklahoma? Very, very little. It all gets shipped outside the state. It's a fraction of what oil and gas provides, right? Yeah. And yet, and then you've got the added thing of now you've got the wind turbine companies like NextEra going to their county assessors and going, we don't want to pay taxes on this. So they'll claim. I just have something up on my on the Facebook page and on our X profile about the fact that I was looking at Tulsa World the other day, and up at the top is a banner ad. Banner ads aren't cheap, people. A banner ad for NextEra and this 7 square mile solar thing that they're putting in Hughes County. And I'm sitting here going, who paid for that ad? Probably us. Okay. Let's get to some comments here because somebody's going to remind me about my blood pressure in a second. It's how the various levels of governments are arranged with such a power connection, reliance on the feds. When the feds experience a coup, we do too. And I would even expand that, though, Jeremy, to talk about the fact that when the feds give us money, we do what the feds say. So it's a lot like, here, puppy, you want this? Got to shake my hand. It's just awful. Lisa says, yes, he's supposed to be representing us. Those who pay his salary deserve to know where his extra income comes from, since it sways his policy and choices. And I think that we're going to have to pass some kind of law. It won't obviously be this year, but we're going to have to pass some kind of law that says, you know what, if you're going to be governor, if you're going to be in a policy position, you have to cough up what your investments are. Because it's crazy to me to think that people who have policy are making policy decisions, and especially decisions that are giving money to private companies. How do we know they don't have a stake in it?
Yeah, but there'll be ways to get around that, with the creative finance and accounting through you could literally just have a trust that's got to pass through to a corporation. That corporation is less than a 25% investor, in one of these deals. They don't have to report. You're not a majority investor in the way that, it structures and runs. I would like to see it, but it's going to be tough, Jenny.
Well,
it's going to be tough to hold these people accountable to that kind of stuff.
And if you look at the Tulsa audit, and we haven't talked about that, and we're hoping to have Cindy come on. I don't think it'll be in a regular time slot, but we'll have Cindy come on and talk about it when she can. But if you look at that Tulsa audit, there was so much money that was funneled into NGOs, just like Julianne has talked about, and we've talked about on the show over and over and over again. And just like what you just said, Michael, it backs up what you just said. They get this state money, federal money. They invent an NGO, put the money in the NGO, then give money to another NGO that they invent to take the money. And then nobody knows where the money goes. It's like, oh, well, I lost count after the third NGO. So John Boyce says, in my opinion, if you're elected by the people, you should not be able to get a retirement on the backs of the people due to you making a living being a politician. No benefits of any kind. You just get what Social Security you can get at minimum wages. And I don't think there's something wrong with that, honestly, John, because I think what ends up happening is you end up, and we see this with Tom Cole, and I mean, all of our federal congressional people, they have voted over the years to give themselves so many raises, and you get so many perks that it's just, you go up there a pauper and you come home as, I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but I would say it's not even on the raise side, Jenny. It's just on the knowledge of what's getting ready to happen. They're able to deploy money, into certain investments or areas or sectors or whatever it may be. And then, that it doesn't take that long to compound that. When you have, like, for example, if I know someone, like in our business, I mean, we do a lot of trading. We do stuff. We have to comply with all kinds of SEC regulations, all kinds. If I know any kind of inside information and I tell someone, I mean, literally, I'll be investigated. I'll go to jail, but
you'll become Martha Stewart.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they can do it all day long.
We saw what Lisa said. Jeremy says, exactly. It's how the incentives and information get to run together because of political choke points. And here's John saying, and OG&E is going to raise your electric rates. And that's another one. John, you are now personally responsible for raising my blood pressure. So thanks for that. It's all on you. So if you go out and look on our remember we found the subsidy tracker page that's so much fun. If you go out and look on the subsidy tracker, who gets the most subsidies of anything in Oklahoma? Which organization? OG&E.
Yeah.
OG&E, millions and millions and millions of dollars. They're supposed to be regulated by the Corporation Commission. We're not supposed to have just these consistent, constant raises in our rates. But so OG&E literally screws us from both sides. So they get our tax dollars and incentives, and then they turn around and go, oh, but we don't have enough money. I'm going to raise rates. Nope. And I think everybody at the Corporation Commission should have to literally stand on a box and explain that for us. You explain it, peeps. I want to know. There are 3 of you. You better come up with a damn good reason as to why that's going on.
Yeah. Well, that's why we need to force these politicians in one way or another to answer, to have like a public, some type of forum or something to where you actually have to be held accountable to the public on the news, live streamed, whatever it is. None of this like, hey, meet at this building at midnight for this 10-minute meeting so we can say that we did something like that. I mean,
no, you are 100% right. I mean, that we have, yes.
The thing about like this, here's what we need to do in politics. We'll take a page from your least favorite thing, which is sports, Jenny. We'll take a page from sports. We need to have a massive media day multiple times with certain government officials or departments or whatever, to where they're up there. They just have to answer questions live from people, that showed up that day.
Oh my gosh. I think that is the best thing. We make every board or commission have to have a media day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am on board with that.
Yeah. Not just some meeting where you got to come to them. They need to be put on some type of live stream where it's convenient for every single person in this state to get on, and there's no pick or choose. You get in line, you get to ask your question.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that's absolutely perfect. Jeremy just was talking about he just found us and we sound very reasonable. I'm glad you picked a good time to do it.
It's reasonable today.
Yeah, right now we're being reasonable. And then a Colorado energy company, CK Energy, bought out our electric company we have here in Elgin and immediately raised our rates.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Corporation Commission should have found some way to stop that or to let you know, or, I mean, that's just wrong. Every municipal government chases grant money at the expense of town folks' best interest, it seems. And sometimes, having been a mayor, I will tell you, well, for me, that was a very hard thing to do. and which is why I was not on board. The only time I ever subscribed to any of that kind of stuff is when we could get it from one of the state funds, and it was for waste for water, helping our water system here. Oh, Jenny and Michael are awesome. Great conversations. Thank you. Appreciate that. Electric companies in general.
Yeah.
I agree. Every Wednesday and Friday at 9. Oh, see you next week. I guess she's out of here. Michael, why isn't this already a thing? What you just said. Maybe work with the Freedom Caucus to get that done. Maybe. I have no idea. We'll have to see. I'd rather pregnant check cows. You can't tell me that's the funniest thing you've ever had.
That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny.
Oh, John, man, you got me twice. I'm literally crying. Although I did see something funny. I get the Tucker Carlson newsletter, that he does. I'm still dying over that. I get the Tucker Carlson newsletter, and John, you might have felt the same way about me. So I'm not a huge sports person, obviously, but I particularly don't like golf. And my husband used to be a huge golfer, and, we never sat down long enough to watch anything on the television, but if it would have been golf. Well, I saw the funniest thing. Tucker Carlson had a little vignette video that he put out on his newsletter for today, which was, they were playing, it was a pro, you probably saw this, Michael, because you're into golf. It was a pro tournament in Florida, and one of the guys who was a regular Florida player, lives in Florida. There was an alligator that came up. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Alligator came up on the green, and some cop couldn't get rid of it, and they were all scared of it, and he just goes over and whacks it with his golf club. And that thing's like, takes off into. I thought that was the funniest thing. I was like, oh my gosh, way to go. And he was so calm about it, just like flap.
You dang alligators, get out of here.
See, John, you would have liked that. That was actually funny. Okay. The only golf I've ever played is putt-putt.
Now what?
Okay, I think I can't think of anything else, but
I'll tell you a funny story. When Don was talking about, your kids and the airsoft guns and getting out there and, doing stuff, what we used to do in Guyman? Now this is real cowboy. This is real cowboy stuff here. We would, we drove around with shotguns in our cars, we'd just, hop out. We saw some birds. We'd just hop out and shoot them. That's the kind of stuff we did. But anyway, we would get all of our pellet. We had pellet guns that were pistols, like, with the cartridge and CO2 cartridge. Then we had our rifles, and we would literally, there'd be like 5, 6 of us, 10 of us. We'd go out to the game reserve because there was never anybody out there. There was a lot of cover, trees, different cool topography out there. We got to the game reserve, and we'd literally play war with pellet guns. We'd literally like 2-3 pair of pants on, big jackets. We'd make teams. And I think back to like how none of us lost an eye or anything like that. That's the kind of stuff we did. We literally shoot each other with pellet guns.
Well, and my kids did that. My boys did that. We'd have a bunch of boys over here, play. You would have to be very cautious about going outside when they were out there playing. And I never thought, I made them wear eyewear because, a bruise is one thing, but you put an eye out and that's a lifelong problem.
Well, we were so dumb. We didn't even do that, Jenny.
Yeah. Well, I made them, they had to wear goggles or they could not play. But other than that, and they come in with, bruises from
Oh,
where
yeah.
they gotten whacked by those things. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys are such a bunch of geebers. It's hilarious.
With my brothers, with Mark, we had one pistol that was kind of weak, and you could barely see the pellet come out of, or the BB. This one was a BB.
Oh.
So we literally would jump on the trampoline at our house, and that's how we'd play dodgeball. Instead of throwing a ball, we'd be shooting each other with that pistol on the trampoline at our house. That's the kind of stuff we used to do.
One of these days, you're going to have to introduce me to your mother, whom I'm going to have to take out for a steak dinner.
Yeah. She still doesn't know all the stories to this day.
That's so funny because my husband was one of 3 boys, and there are still some of them that one of them, when the parents are out of the room, or, before his dad died, they would wait until he left the room and they'd go, so you were the one who hit the, whatever. I mean, it was the funniest thing. You were like, oh my gosh, boys are just the worst. But then John says the same way. When I was a kid, we used BB guns.
Yeah, same thing.
Those tend to go underneath the skin, though. Hey, back in the early 90s, smaller towns in Oregon, you'd see gun racks and rifles in the cab of a high schooler's. Oh, yeah, for sure. Us. Husband's school closed down the opening week of deer season. That's right. Those were the good old days. I mean, it was the same thing. I went to John Marshall High School, and, that was right in the middle of Oklahoma City, basically. And I graduated in 81. Gosh, it seems so long ago now. I was like 81. And now I'm just old. But anyway, that was for sure. We always had cars out in the parking lot that had gun racks, and nothing ever happened. It was just it was a different time. And again, I blame a lot of it on that.
Yeah. Well, I just noticed you had your political animal shirt on.
I do. I do. I liked my political animal shirt, and I'm wearing that in honor of Whitney Mullica today. Oh, Amber, you are no longer my friend. I'm now officially erasing your number from my
81.
Yeah, that was lovely. Okay. Reminds me how
I was 5, Amber. Amber and I were the thinking about Jenny being up there graduating.
You were 4 when I graduated?
No, I was 5.
Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, well,
there's a big difference there between 4 and 5.
Yeah, a whole year. Well, is there anything exciting going on for you this weekend? Oh, John, you guys are the meanest people ever. Enough. No, I don't love you anymore, Amber. What are you doing this weekend? Anything exciting?
There's a lot of work around the house. Thanks to you, I got to get my peas in the ground.
I'm even afraid maybe we've overdone it a week. So I'm a little concerned that I'm going to be behind a week. So we got to get that done. Lisa. Okay, I got to put this one up. It's okay, Jenny. I'll always be older than you. What, like 6 months?
Well, Jenny, you could identify any way you want in today's time. It doesn't matter. You don't have to.
Oh, that's true. I can identify as 24.
Yeah. I mean, once you may have physically graduated in 81, but once you identify as 2000 or something.
That's right.
You're a millennial.
All right. So next week, we have Janet and Robert, who are going to talk about some homeschool bills and some not just homeschool bills, education bills, and just kind of as a rule, we're going to talk about some of those. And then on the next Friday, we're going to have my friend Carolyn McClarty, who was the Oklahoma Republican oh my gosh, I'm forgetting exactly but she was the committee woman. She was the Oklahoma Republican committee woman for Oklahoma. I mean, for years. And she's gone back to working with Eagle Forum. And if you don't remember Eagle Forum was run by Phyllis Schlafly, and who has passed away since. But Phyllis Schlafly was an amazing woman, and she created this Eagle Forum group, and now Carolyn's managing that. And I thought it would be a really good time to have her come on and talk about how ways that people can get involved and engaged in the political process through Eagle Forum, because Carolyn needs some help. So we're going to talk about that, and probably a little bit about Schlafly and some of our history and that kind of stuff. So we'll do that next Friday. So you might want to tune in for that for more history. History is important. And we are going to schedule Cindy Bird, but it'll be it may not be live. It may be an add-in. We'll have to see. So, all right. Anything else before we get off of here for today?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that for the state streaming day, the state media day.
Yeah.
Or maybe we ought to call it the subsidy streaming day. Here's what we should do. Okay, so we're going to try to hold the government people accountable, yes. But what if we just include in there, through phases, like Don said, we gotta do some phases in these things. We can't go for all at once. But what if anybody that receives a subsidy over a certain dollar amount, whatever it is, whatever we deem that is, that company or corporation, they're going to have to participate in that day to answer those questions also. So, like,
where did that money go?
Yeah, they can't be shielded. They're going to have their spokesman or whoever up there say, okay, you guys are receiving. How many? What was OG&E receiving? Do you remember?
Oh my gosh, no! But it's millions and millions and millions of dollars.
You're
it's not millions. Just a small thing.
Yeah, I mean, how'd you like to have 1,000 people lined up? Say, okay, why is my bill going up 20%? Why is this happening over this period of time? I mean, and make that company answer those questions. Say, what are you doing with that money? Why is my bill going up?
I think that's an excellent idea, because we have Cindy Bird to do audits, but that's on state governmental entities. But the problem is these taxpayer dollars are going out to private companies, and they don't get audited.
Yeah, and that's where we're seeing the fraud happen with Doge. Okay, so Doge is doing it. They're showing the fraud. So it's not just it's not a federal government deal. This is everywhere. I mean, this is everywhere where our money's being handed out. There's fraud. There's fraud there. There's only one reason to hand that money out like that in any capacity, and it's for fraud, in my opinion.
Well, I think your opinion is right. And I think when we really get into that Tulsa audit, we also need to have Melissa Remington on too, to talk about that and what she went through as a citizen.
Yeah.
And, I've got to get her on so that we can talk to her about how she, as a citizen, threw herself into making Tulsa public schools accountable and getting, just badgering Stitt until he finally said, okay, you can do the audit. That's but it's such an important thing. She did something just on her own with a couple of friends that people should be doing all of the time. So I need to get Melissa to come on, and we'll probably do maybe a double live one day with her on for too, so we can talk about that maybe before or after we have Cindy on in there. But yes, and it's Steph said Tom Cole made that a bigger problem with McGirt, and I agree with that. And yes, Amber, they do need to be accountable to the people. These nonprofit organizations that are getting our tax dollars, those are all slush funds. They're all just ways to manipulate the money to get them to people. I was listening to somebody talk yesterday who was telling me that there is literally, in that Tulsa Public Schools audit, there is literal testimony that these people would say, well, you're going to have to make that purchase order for $49,000, because if it's anything over $50,000, it's going to have to go before the school board. So they just make him stack up like 4 or 5 purchase orders at $49,000 so that the school board never even knew what they were doing.
Hey, I'll tell you a quote from Angela Grunwald, who she's leaving Edmond Public Schools, and I think that'll be the best decision that's happened for everybody at Edmond. But one time in an email, I should find this email and send it to you. I was badgering Angela, and yeah, I badger them. I won't sugarcoat it. I was badgering her about spending some money. She literally told me, she's like, Michael, I don't have to check in with the school board if I want to buy salt for the salt shakers. That's literally what she told me when we were talking about a much larger issue. That's what she told me.
Well, and I think what would end up happening is if somebody would badger Stitt or the AG into calling for an audit of Edmond Public Schools, I would almost lay down my life over the fact that you're going to find the same type garbage going on there that you found at TPS.
Well, I think I've told you before, maybe not on this show. I received actual handwritten letters from people inside Edmond Public Schools that said, when you get on school board, you need to start looking into this and this and this. Literally, handwritten letter, sent in the mail, no return address.
See, that's bad juju. I mean, that should have been automatic. And I don't know if school board members can call for an audit. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it's pretty locked down.
They're head of the finances. They can look pretty deeply into the finances at the school.
And they can request that another auditor do their regular yearly audit. Because I know what happens with a lot of these places that have to, like municipalities and schools that are forced by state law to have regular yearly audits. They'll go find an auditor that's kind of in their pocket to fudge numbers on the audit. And we know that happens. All you have to do is Google that in Oklahoma and it'll pop right up and say that. So I do know that school board members do have the opportunity to at least say, hey, we're not going to use this auditing company. We're going to use another one. So there is that, and that is a possibility. So okay, well, we better get off of here. We're almost at 2 hours. And if we get off now, we don't make 2 hours. We can say we didn't go to 2 hours. As usual, thank you guys for staying on with us. We've had a really great audience. And again, I know Michael and I both love the comments, and some of them. John Stanley was responsible for breaking me up so hard I cried and then raising my blood pressure. So that was too funny today. So thank you guys, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It's going to be really nice, probably windy. March comes in like a lion, but have a great weekend, and we will see you again on Wednesday. Bye-bye.